Hello, everybody. Today, the Hamel Scholars Education Task Force is going to provide a brief introduction to rhetorical analysis. Rhetorical analysis is the dissection of different elements in a usual nonfiction source to understand how an author tries to persuade, entertain, or inform an audience. In traditional teaching of this topic, there are three categories that are discussed: ethos, logos, and pathos. The three function as vehicles of explaining the different appeals an author uses to engage an audience. The first I will be discussing is ethos. Ethos, in simple terms, is character. It is the authority an author has over a subject. For example, Jimmy Carter is the 39th President of the United States. His election as president provides him authority over the general dictation of the nation. Any specific event concerning the nation then falls under his umbrella, his status as president affording him authority on most topics concerning the United States. An important application of ethos is understanding the validity and the authority an author has. While Jimmy Carter is the president, or was the president of the United States, one would expect him to have ideas coinciding with public officials who have extensive education on various topics. He is supposed to be the collective authority of a nation by his title as president. This, however, is contrasted by the authority of another president, Donald Trump. Regardless of opinions relating to Donald Trump, he actively contradicted information presented on pandemic proceedings by his own COVID-19 task force, some of which are nationally recognized doctors. This would call the authority of the president into question, and this guts the argument the president has on topics concerning the United States, especially in Donald Trump's case, the COVID-19 pandemic. The second aspect of rhetorical analysis commonly taught is logos, or logic. Logos is the application of logic to help convince an audience to side with the perspective of the author. Logic comes in many different forms. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. This type of thinking is meant to draw logical conclusions out of a reader, reaffirming the stance an author has on a subject. The third and final category we will be fully covering in the teaching of rhetorical analysis is pathos, or emotion. Pathos is the appeal to emotion or different ways an author tries to draw out an audience's emotions in order to contribute to their argument. Pathos can function as the use of words with connotations that inspire specific feelings inside an audience, such as saying, "The enemy viciously ravaged the land, leaving no man, woman, or child unharmed." The use of the word viciously and ravaged leaves the idea of total destruction, and when using the context of the enemy, it inspires the idea of anger and pain. When adding the people, which are the men, women, and children, it adds a totality that inspires fear and concern for the total argument that the author tries to display. Specifically mentioning children, a vulnerable population that is commonly seen as pure and just, acts to inspire outrage and a need for vindication. Pathos functions as a way of playing at emotional responses. While the three categories initially taught for rhetorical analysis are helpful, more information is needed. Specific knowledge of rhetorical devices is needed to validate an understanding of any of these elements. Devices such as simile, allusion, and alliteration are all important in rhetorically analyzing a piece. These devices help persuade or convince an audience to think a specific idea by playing on different ideas. A simile is used as a comparison that can be used to contextualize the enormity or minuscule nature of a problem. Allusion can help to give an example of why the matter is so important in the first place. Repetition helps to ingrain an idea into an audience's mind. Psychology helping to explain why repeating a phrase makes it so much easier to adopt. Similar to the phrase of, "Let's make America great again." When performing a rhetorical analysis in an educational environment, it is important to follow the directions of this instructor. When there's no direct instructions, though, there are some tips and tricks I'd like to impart before ending the video. My first tip is to not stick to just ideas of ethos, logos, and pathos. From my personal experience, the higher one goes in the education system, the more these phrases function as a way of identifying superficial analysis. When performing a rhetorical analysis, the specific points one brings up should explain these topics than rather directly trying to point them out. Ethos, logos, and pathos function more as umbrella categories rather than means of actual analysis. Fully analyzing a piece will contribute pieces of information that fall under ethos, logos, and pathos, rather than putting examples of where these appeals are used in the piece that is meant to be dissected. Ethos, logos, and pathos are not in and of themselves meant to be used to dissect a piece. Analyzing different rhetorical devices, structure, pacing, tone, and other ideas are more important than labeling which category sections of a piece falls into. Another tip is that specificity is key in a rhetorical analysis. The deeper you go into analyzing a piece, the more important it becomes to look at specific phrases and words of topics that don't fully concern words in and of themselves, like structure and pacing. The presentation of information is more important than the areas the author looks to appeal to. For example, looking at a sentence such as, "The brave soldiers rode into battle on great steeds of iron, ready to fight the terror of the foreign enemy." There are many ways of approaching this sentence. Saying that this sentence appeals to pathos is nearly redundant. The words showing that very clearly in and of themselves. But analyzing the word brave in terms of soldiers is a deeper analysis. It reflects ideas of patriotism, heroism, and nationalism, and potentially other ideas in context to an author's argument. Bravery is something that is seen as being worthy of pride, and if a commander sends troops into battle, using language like that mentioned helps to convince people to think that sending troops in was the right thing to do. Mentioning a metal steed also reflects images of historical importance, a romanticization of battle that reflects righteousness and honor, where saying a tank or car sounds industrial in nature. The different meanings of words, how they are put together, and the context of the argument itself is more important than saying what sections appeal to what. Ethos, logos, and pathos only skim the surface of a rhetorical analysis. So, when asked to perform a rhetorical analysis and being given no other directives, always look at specific parts of speech and ideas behind words and general ideas on writing. Those are just some quick tips. And that's all I have today. But if there's anything else you'd like me to cover, leave a comment. This was, after all, a brief introduction to rhetorical analysis. If you have any other topics you want us to cover, let us know. Thanks.